5 years to take a new company and turn it into a multi-million-dollar business. This is my journey. Today is May 27th, and for those of you who have been following this channel, you always hear me talking about diversifying your portfolio, having different means of income. Myself, I have different means of income. I have my regular 9 to 5, which is the office. I'm currently not shooting in the office. I'm shooting from my home studio or from my home office. I'll be giving you guys a tour of that probably in another video. But let's get back to the topic on hand, which is diversifying your portfolio. Some of the different things that I've done is I work a regular 9 to 5, which is at the office. Like I said, I'm currently not in my office. The other one is investing in stock market, buying paintings, having a stamp collection, also having a coin collection, and also investing in other people's ideas and businesses as well. Those are different ways that I myself try to diversify my portfolio. So with that being said, one of the things I want to talk about today is the stock market. Now, I'm not a heavy day trader or anything else like that. I trade whenever I see great opportunities to jump into the market, make a couple dollars and then jump out, but I'm not like a consecutive everyday trader. I watch the market. If there's opportunities, get in. If no opportunities, I sit out. But one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of major companies such as Sears and Hertz Car Rental, which is the second largest car rental company in the United States, they filed for bankruptcy. Now, when you see these companies filing for bankruptcy, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And one of the people you'll always see me refer back to is Machiavelli. Machiavelli is one of my favorite authors and philosophers. I love the fact that he says the ends justifies the means. Now, most people, they go with the concept of what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. If you live like that, then you're never really going to succeed, because behind every successful person, you normally find a lot of skeletons in their closets. Okay, and one of the reasons why I've always said I am not to a point where I'm capable of being is because I'm very Machiavellian in thought, but in action it's very difficult for me to be very Machiavellian in the actions. I can advise somebody on how to be very Machiavellian, meaning, hey, do whatever you need to do in order to succeed. The end justifies the means. But if you have a conscience, kind of like I do, then it's very difficult. Okay, so now with that being said, let's take, for example, Hertz Car Rental. Hertz Car Rental in 2018 reported over $9 billion in actual revenue, basically money made. All right. Now, out of that, I believe it was $225 million was considered actual profit after paying all of their expenses. And this was in 2018. Now, we've been dealing with this whole shutdown thing for about 2 months now, and yet the company filed for bankruptcy. And one of the reasons why they're saying they're filing for bankruptcy is because of this coronavirus situation. Car rental is down, but it's only been 2 months. Now, for those of you who understand how business works, they're not just looking, when that decision was made, it's not just looking at the 2 months that they were shut down, but they're also saying, hey, based on everything that's going on, we have to forecast. You always hear me talking about forecasts and planning for the future, at least 6 months to a year ahead. It may take 6 months to a year before the car rental industry really gets back to where it was. So that basically means they were out of business for about 2 months, and do they have enough reserves for the next 6 months to a year until things get back to where they would normally be? A big company like Hertz Car Rental, more than likely they have the funds, they have the capital, they have the credit line, okay, and they're able to do it. Now, the reason why most of these companies end up filing for bankruptcy is because they're being very Machiavellian in their thought, in how they act. Same thing if you look at JCPenney. Most of these companies, you're going to see them, and take a look at Sears. They all file for bankruptcy, but most of these companies are still around. And you ask, how is that? When you file for bankruptcy, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have no money. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're broke. It just means that you want to restructure and you want to get rid of some of those bad debts. I'll give you a prime example. Hertz Car Rental right now may have, and these are just figures that I'm throwing out to use as an example. Hertz Car Rental right now may have about, let's say, $500,000 in bad debt. By filing for bankruptcy and using this whole coronavirus situation as a cover, they can go ahead and file for bankruptcy, and when they go in front of the bankruptcy judge, they can show all the losses that they've made for the past 2 months and potential losses that's going to come for the next 3 to 6 months. And the judge can sit there and say, okay, great. Out of that $500 million that you have in bad debt, you may only have to pay back $100 million of it. So think about this. If you're in a position as a company right now to take advantage of the COVID-19 situation and get rid of more than half of your bad debt and not have to pay it back, would you not do it? It's the smart thing to do from a business point of view. Now, They also use that to what they call become lean and trim the fat. It's kind of like working out. If you're working out and you have a lot of fat, you're not as strong and healthy as you can be. When you become lean, that basically means you're getting rid of that excess fat, you're building more muscle, and you're becoming stronger. That's where that phrase come from. Getting lean, trimming the fat. These companies such as Hertz, they can use this opportunity when they file for bankruptcy to get rid of those bad debts. Not only get rid of those bad debts, but also get rid of those departments and staff that they really don't need. Let's say, for example, they had a certain department A, that they structured and they set it up 10 years ago. They may have needed Department A 10 years ago, but due to the advancement of technology, due to the change in customer demand, Department A is no longer needed. It's not relevant. So when filing for bankruptcy, they're able to sit there and say, hey, we took out a certain amount of debt to design and build up Department A. Now we're going to get rid of Department A, the debt that came along with it, we're going to get rid of it. The overhead that came along with it, we're going to get rid of it. So for employees, it's a bad thing because a lot of employees are going to get trimmed off. A lot of employees are going to get laid off. But at the end, after the bankruptcy is finalized, the company is going to become more lean, meaning a lot of that fat has gone and they are much stronger. So now the company is able to survive longer. Now, from a human point of view and from an emotional point of view, you look and say, wow, these people are very cold and heartless. How else did they get to the point where they are right now to have a multi-billion-dollar company? They have to be like that. Because if they don't do that, what typically ends up happening is, for an example, once again, these are fictitious numbers, but I just want to use these as an example. If Hertz right now has 10,000 employees and they don't go ahead and trim, cut the fat, and get rid of 3,000 of those employees, leaving them with 7,000 employees, eventually, a year, 2 or 3 years from now, it can affect the entire company to where the entire company can shut down and all 10,000 of those employees don't have a job, or where instead of them just having to get rid of 3,000 employees, they may end up having to get rid of half of their employees, and 5,000 employees, that's an extra 2,000 employees without jobs. So by trimming the fat, what's happening here is they're going to get rid of maybe 3,000 employees, an example, and once again, these are fictitious numbers. And then what's going to happen is the company becomes stronger. The company starts to grow, and as the company grows, they may add those people back in. They may add the same amount, they may add a little bit less, or they may add more than those 3,000 people that they've let go, but it gives the company longevity down the road. So this all comes back to investing into the stock market. And the reason why I'm making this video today is to explain that even though there are a lot of companies filing for bankruptcy, you have to look at, well, what I'm doing is I have to look at the company, I have to look at their previous year's histories, I got to look at the numbers that's coming in, and then I have to say, this company is filing for bankruptcy, is it still a good stock to buy? It may still be a good stock to buy for the simple fact of they're cutting the fat, they're becoming lean, it's going to become stronger. So those may be stocks that I buy, and I have to hold on to those stocks for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, long-term investments, and the stock is going to grow. But then again, you have other companies out here that are actually taking full advantage of the COVID-19 situation, and they're just filing for bankruptcy to get rid of their bad debt, keep all the money that they have, shut down the business, get rid of all the overhead, and start brand new with a clean slate. Now, is that wrong? Yes. From an employee's point of view, I would be very upset. But from a business owner's point of view, it's somewhat of a smart thing to do. Think about this. You own a restaurant, you're about $200,000 in debt. And once again, fictitious numbers, you're about $200,000 in debt because you had to start up the restaurant and everything else like that. You do have profit. You could probably survive this whole COVID-19 shutdown and survive for the next couple of years. But if you're able to show a great amount of loss over the past 3 months, and your forecast is able to show that for the next 6 months or a year, you're not going to be able to make money, and you file for bankruptcy now with the bankruptcy court and the judge, you can go in front of a judge, and the judge can sit there and say, out of that $200,000, you may only have to pay back $50,000, or maybe even wipe your slate clean. That basically means you've got all this equipment, you have everything that you can possibly get, opened up the business, made all this money, and now you're able to walk away scot-free without having to pay any of it or a very small portion of that debt. Perfect opportunity. You close down, wait a year, wait a few months, and then you reopen or invest your money into something else. and you don't have to pay back all of that debt. So with that being said, I want people to understand something. In business, these are the type of decisions that people typically have to make. And it's not that these people are bad or evil. It's just they're Machiavellian. People who are successful, they have to think like that. You cannot be emotional and expect to be this great, awesome business leader. No. At the end of the day, it's a dog-eat-dog world. And this is why you have to be very careful about what you decide to do with your future. If you decide to open up a business and you want to stay a small business, then that's fine. But if you decide that you want to play with the big boys, then you've got to be able to do what the big boys do. You've got to be very Machiavellian. And for those of you who have never read the book The Prince, I recommend that you read it because it explains how to be a great leader. Most politicians, they follow the lead of Machiavelli. The ends justifies the means. All right? And for those of you who may watch this video and think that I'm cold, calculating, and I'm an evil person, or I'm thinking evilly, and this is not how it really works in the real world, I will tell you like that. If you're thinking like that and you're disgusted by this video, or you're disgusted by the things that you're hearing right now, or the thought of people actually doing stuff like that, then you have an employee mind. You have the mindset of an employee. It's basically, that's what it is. I had a very interesting conversation the other day with my mentor. We were having a discussion, me and another gentleman, and my mentor was there, and we were talking about who's pro-union and who's anti-union. All right, and this is going to lead to a point. This is going to prove a point, but and I'll try to wrap up the video. But his point of view was, unions are great for the employees, and unions are there to protect the employees, and unions are great, and the unions are wonderful, and they need to do that to keep the employers in check, because employers are going to take advantage of the employees and everything else like that. Where my point of view was, as a business owner, I'm not a big fan of a union. If I start up a business, I don't want somebody to come in and tell me, well, I have to pay my employees this much, or I have to give them this much, I have to give them this much, I have to do this, I have to do that, and if I don't do this, then they're going to go on strike. And it's like, I started up this company, but yet now I don't have full control over it, because this group of individuals who I'm helping to provide for them to take care of their family, they're holding me hostage. I don't like that point of view. So when we were bumping heads on that, and then we asked my mentor to step in, he basically said, look, the both of you guys are never going to agree. The reason for that is because the guy I was debating, he looked at it from an employee standpoint of view, and I looked at it from a business owner point of view. I never really categorized myself as an employee, because I've always known that from the day I was maybe 16, 17, I wanted to have my own business. And then there's those of us who simply look at ourselves as always working for somebody, always working a 9 to 5, always being an employee, always having a boss to report to. So if you're looking at this video and you're saying the fact that these big shot business owners are taking advantage of the situation to make more money, or to expand their business and to get rid of their bad debt, and you're absolutely disgusted by it, more than likely you work for somebody and you plan on working for somebody for the rest of your life. For those of you who are sitting here and you want to own your own business, you're probably looking at it from the point of view of, it's not the right thing to do morally, but from a business point of view, it's pretty smart. So that's what this video is about today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Something to think about. Everybody wants to own their own business. Everybody wants to be a boss. But the thing about it is, are you mentally, emotionally prepared to do it? And are you capable of taking advantage of a situation when everybody else is suffering? And are you willing to be Machiavellian? And for those of you who don't understand the term Machiavellian, look it up. It's very interesting. A lot of presidents have been described as being very Machiavellian. One of the guys I would probably tell you about is Putin, described as being very, very Machiavellian. You look at China being very Machiavellian. These are leaders right now with the COVID-19 situation. They're no longer showing their face in public. They're not doing as much public events because they don't want to be associated with a government that is dropping the ball. Whereas, when things are good, they want to show their face. They want to be on television because they want to be known as the person who's leading the good times. It's somewhat of a Machiavellian thing to do. All right, because when everything is done, they're going to be able to come out and say, hey, those people who you saw on television who worked for me, those are the ones who were the bad guys who weren't doing their job correctly. You didn't see me making speeches during the coronavirus situation. You didn't see my face that much because I was not associated with that. I was too busy working trying to resolve this situation. It's very interesting. I had this conversation with somebody else, and they were just like, oh my gosh, you know, like, I don't think this person's ever going to talk to me again, because when I expressed to them everything that's going on, and I kind of justified why I see a lot of business owners and a lot of people doing the things that they're doing, they were like, you know, you guys are horrible. And I said, no, it's not that. It's just, these guys are not horrible. It's just, it's the nature of the, you know, it's the law of the land. It's kind of like you're either a wolf or you're a sheep. Yeah, that's the simplest way for me to term it. You're either a wolf or a sheep. You're an opportunist or you're being taken advantage of. Thank you for watching this video. You guys have a wonderful day.